What's up, everyone? This is Anon. None of this is financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. I'm going to go ahead and put this on for Discord also. We'll kind of dive into what happened today, answer people's questions, and kind of go from there. So let's go ahead and get some things situated, because there's obviously a lot. What's up, Quack? Obviously a lot of stuff going on, but yeah, you were first. You won today. All right, so let me copy this, put it out there. Cough's back. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. Just posting this. Apparently, I'm supposed to go and put it on Twitter as well. Hello, Becca. Hello, Earthium. Okay, let's see. Green is good. Fucking good day for us, right? That's what Tanner Bean says. Aloha vibes. What's up, man? What's up, Luther? What's up, Keith? CC, what's up? Dustin. So if shorts are using the option chains to close their positions, does that mean that short squeezes over? First off, I don't know where you're getting that information. Shorts are not using the option chains to close their position. Shorts are basically ensuring that they have a backstop. That's typically what happens. So what they would do is they would buy up, for example, like 750s, 10s, stuff like that. That way, if things go sideways, they have a place to at least cover. But that would also mean that the stock would run up to those levels. So that doesn't kill a squeeze. So that's not how that works. What's up, Tom? What's up, Marine? MACD looking fresh. Yep, MACD's starting to look good. I need to add that one to this one, don't I? Sorry, I forgot. I have a bunch of things that I need to... I keep messing with this. It resets every once in a while. Excuse me. The cough is back. I don't know if that's good or bad. Alright, let's move it up here. Because I like my MACD being... I actually like it right below my RSI. But it's going to keep going there, so I need to probably... So putting it down there, and then bring this up. Alright, there we go. That's looking better. Okay. Yeah, right now, what I have up here is volume. I've got the RSI right here with the RSI rocket. I also have the MACD here, and then this is the money flow and OBV, and also the ADL, which is accumulation distribution line. And then I have an awesome oscillator and a TTM squeeze that I'm looking at. But yeah, Earthium, it doesn't mean that it's over. It just means that they're able to cover at a certain spot. But once again, they owe like 12 to 13 million shares. That's assuming they close all their shares. If you add 12 to 13 million shares of buying pressure, you know, they don't have to, if they, for example, wait until cover them at like 7 or 10, for example, where we saw the most open interest, right? That's a pretty significant move from 350 to basically, you know, 750. And at that point, we would see if the short interest does actually drop. So What's up, Becca? What's up, CC? What's up, Tom? Oh, we can hear you this time. Oh, good. On the cough. All right. Market sediments are drowning. It's gonna be hard for Aterian to do upside movement. Yeah, but I mean, it happened anyway today. So, I mean, we were basically oversold. You could already tell. I don't think I have a. I should add a stochastic on here. Might as well, right? I'm adding all these ones. Which one should we add, though? Let's try this one. Let's see what that does. I don't have enough room. What can I make smaller? Let's see if there's enough room on this. No. I think it's just the size of the screen. I'll have to get back to it. So we can look at it on Weeble, but I don't need all that room. Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry about that. All right. But yeah, I was going to say, the overall market obviously was down today. If you look at the SPY, they finished with the Doji. Let's see. Yeah. So I'm just looking at, this is the small cap that Aterian's in, which is IWM. Most things in this are obviously taking a beating just because the overall market's been in a complete downtrend. Let's see. Yeah, same thing. If you look at 480 down to 400, I expect, if you actually look, though, you can start seeing. Tell me what you guys see. So this is the S&P 500. Look at this right here, though. You see how it looks like the MACD is actually starting to curl up. We're not getting a huge indicator on either one. The rocket's starting to move a little bit higher for the RSI. So we could see another green day tomorrow for a slight trend reversal, but it also could be a bull trap for this in particular from the SPY. We'll see. Because, obviously there's a lot of bad news coming down the pipeline with, tightening, with, we're going to see a large correction on, we already saw a pretty large correction already, but we're going to probably see something in the future. I don't know if it's long-term or short-term at this point, but we will we'll go back down, fill some gaps on the SPY. The SPY gapped up a bunch of times to like 350 level, so I expect us to be back down there pretty soon, in the next couple months, if not sooner. Okay, let's see. So a bunch of people have lots of questions. So let's go back to Aterian. All right. So if we close above 350 for the week, could that cause a gamma squeeze on the options chain? Honestly, it would have to be higher than that if you're looking at what a gamma squeeze could be, because you would want the price to actually start moving much higher than it is right now, because there was a good amount of stuff in the fives I think it's like 2 million shares roughly, like 1.8, 2 million after today. We'll see tomorrow morning when everything settles out with open interest. But let's pull up real quick an options so I can show you guys. That's TD Bank. I need TD Ameritrade. Okay, so let's go to Aterian and let's look at the options chains real quick. All right, so let's take a look at today's options chains and the ones for Friday, the 20th expiry. Let's look at all options chains because they run to 2250 now, right? Yep, I did have that part right. So we'll take a screenshot of it real quick, and I'll bring it over so you guys can see it, and we'll do our paint and everything. All right. How's everyone's evening? Hopefully good. All right. Now we need to resize so everyone can see it. No, I'll do this for right now while I'm putting in some colors. All right. So some of you have gotten used to me doing this every day. I always kind of frame out the strikes so you can see them. I'm starting to use green now for in the money. Here we go. And red is going to be potentially burned. And then I usually highlight with areas of interest in blue. Okay. We'll do an area of interest here. 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 Nothing that huge on that side, but I'll kind of go over the put side as well. All right, so let's see what this looks like. Bear with me for a second. Sorry, my dog's like trying to like dig in. Okay. I was told to tell you guys to like and subscribe. All right. So where is it? So I can see. Okay, there we go. So hopefully, should I zoom in a little bit? Does that be? That's probably too much. I guess I could move it like this, because that's what really matters. All right. So the question was, would finishing 3 over 350 cause a gamma squeeze? And the answer to that is not really. So it would be the start of basically a gamma squeeze, because what you're looking for is, this is kind of like the first target would be the $5. There's a large amount of open interest, obviously, at the $5 range strike price. So for that to happen, there has to be a rapid movement of basically as the theta on the options gets closer to expiry, it's going to speed up, obviously, the decay. But at the same time, the rate of change basically is what gamma is. So delta is like how much the stock is, the underlying, and then gamma is basically how fast it moves. So like as this starts flying up, like you have to start hedging some of this stuff down the line. And that's what a gamma squeeze essentially is when you have a stock that's moving up in price, and then they have to start accounting for all the options. That's kind of how this all works. So as you get closer to this 5, all this stuff, it's kind of like a self-feeding loop. You have to basically start hedging all this stuff as it's going up in price, which means that the price will go higher, which means that these ones then have to get hedged also, which means that these ones eventually start having to get hedged, and it starts really, really rapidly moving quickly. And that's how you get these huge green, candles, because they rapidly have to start like hedging all this stuff. So if we finish right here for the week, it doesn't matter because all this stuff gets burned. So really what you need to have happen in this case, and this is not financial advice, I'm just explaining to you how this function works, is if you have a large base of things that are near the money that are like getting closer. So for example, these 3s, when we were sitting here this morning at like low 3s, right? Because I think they pushed us down, right? Let me just pull it up real quick. I don't remember off the top of my head. It all blends together sometimes. Here we go. So let's look up real quick. Zoom out. Beginning of this morning, we hit 3, right? Yeah. We started out, we hit 3, and then we bounced up. And then I noticed there was buying pressure. And so I had stacked some options in the money, and also some like 350s, because I knew that was the next kind of step because we were already above 3. I did buy a couple 3s, and then I bought a bunch of 350s that expire this Friday because I know that would be the next logical place that they would need to have, a large amount of in the options that are going to be closing or closer to in the money. That are called like near the option or near the money. So the 3s and the 350s are going to be super important now because they're going to have to start being accounted for. And then as it gets above 350, and if it holds, then you're going to have to look at 4, then 450 or the next ones. And then like as those options get stacked up, then you'll move into the 5's already there. So, but like as it gets closer to like 450, you're going to start having to account for some of those 5's. And that's where the most aggressive moves would probably come. But basically we're at the edge of a gamma ramp, but we're not on it yet. And for us to get technically on that gamma ramp, this has to be a high amount. These ones have to be at like a high amount of like interest, open interest there that are bullish. And even eventually the 450s too. But at this point right now, we want to see this move up and hold 350. So all this stuff starts to have to get hedged. And what you're going to see them do is this, and this is what they've been doing in the past, which is they will start buying and stacking these ones down here as they get really cheap. They'll start really, really stacking these. That way, at some point, if they start trying to push it down, if there's not enough volume, they'll slide it right back down, and then they'll have to start hedging this stuff. So that's what's happened in the past. That's why if you don't have a strong base down here, if like in the money options, then all this stuff up here doesn't matter, because if they don't have to hedge and do a whole bunch of stuff down here, like say, for example, they pushed this stock under $3, all of a sudden, look how much open interest is burned on the call side. That's why if you don't have a good solid base down here that's making it push up higher, like people disagree with me on this, but this is what I've noticed over the years of trading. If you don't have a good solid foundation down here that will force them to basically, push keep the price honest, then what you'll end up seeing is these guys will stack up down here, and then they will buy in the money stuff to push the stock down. And then once it gets down here, then it's the same thing as a gamma ramp, just reversed. Now all of a sudden, now you have a ton of open interest down at these levels. They have to start de-hedging the calls and start hedging the puts. And so I just want to bring that up to everyone. Okay. But yeah, so we need the stock really, it's got to be a mixture of both. There's got to be deep in the money, calls. So like $2, like, and as the time gets closer to expiry, you're going to see these get cheaper because the theta is decaying on them rapidly. So, what's up, Overminding? What's up, Craig? What's up, Spencer? What's up, Jonathan? Ezekiel? Hey, Anon, I bought and lost $1,000 on the $2 Luna coins yesterday. Yep, not playing with fire. What's up, Just Investor? What's up, Slacker Jack, sorry. Conky Dong. Fun name. All right. Based on the MACD wave, I can see ATER running for at least 14 days for the second half of red. Wait, from second half of red wave to first half of green wave. Yeah, I mean, once again, if we bring up the MACD, this is on the 1 minute, so I need to go like daily. But you can see right here, the MACD is starting to come back and cross over. That's what we're looking for. You can see the stochastic, and I brought this up the last like 2 or 3 days, that the stochastic looked like it was, one, oversold, and number two, it was looking like it was going to start crossing over right about here. And that's what I said. I said this week you're going to see probably a reversal, because you can already tell on a lot of the indicators it was already moving up. Like the RSI had slightly moved up, and you could see that it was about to cross over, and it crossed over today, or actually it crossed over on Friday on the daily. And it needs to come back into this like neutral range. So, yeah. Then on here, if you look, you can see the MACD a little bit better here. And you can already see like the RSI starting to come up. And then, even on the squeeze indicator, I anticipate this is going to turn yellow a little bit longer and then start moving into blue. So that could be later in the week. We have some good price movements, but I do think that I think DZ's right. I think they're going to go and try to they may have to let it run to like 430, and then they're going to really try to nail that down, because the fib retracement levels, they're very much technically trading this with algos. So let's see. Good to hear you, man. Great start to the week. What's up, Sergio? All right. I posted a link in AMC and GME in WB. I'm not quite sure. Maybe you meant Wall Street Bets. I don't know what WB is. All right. Let's see. Do you think they'll have trouble with people losing morale, since a lot of people might lose money on super out of the money May 20th calls? So, Trey, if you've listened to my streams before, I have never been a proponent of buying out of the money, or especially deep out of the money calls. That's something I've never, ever suggested people do. I know people buy them, and to be honest with you, like, you might as well just burn your own dollars. Like, there's, in the off chance you might get like the farthest ones out that I would play, or I would have played, was like $5, if I saw, some price movement. But I mean, that would be the highest I would have gone. I wouldn't have touched the 750s, unless you're looking at like a lot of theta on them, like January of next year. So, do you think we'll break the 350 wall tomorrow? Yeah, I mean, we actually broke it today, and then it bounced back. But I mean, like, we did go through it, so I expect that to be what they test in the morning. or if they might even gap up over it. I mean, it just depends on what the longs want to do, because you guys realize that retail has honestly no control over most of this stuff. Institutional ownership has changed, and there's a lot more people long now than there were a couple weeks ago. If you haven't seen that, I will put out a DD probably tomorrow once I go over the notes and everything. But yeah, so it really just depends on how they want to play this. Like, there are obviously people still short. There are obviously now some institutions that are long. So let's see. The real question is, when do you know when to sell? How do we know false flags? What parameters would make you sell? I'm at this point right now not interested in like selling at least these levels. Obviously, when the price gets higher, I didn't sell last time at 7. So that's pretty safe to say I'm not going to be selling this stock for under 7 or like even 10 probably. But that's just me. I mean, like, I am a very different trader than most people. I have other friends who will probably sell out certain points because they're much more, technical traders. I'm the person that has been like, something's wrong with the stock, and I expect the shorts, the interest to be probably higher than what's being reported, and I think this stock has the potential to really, move if it needs to. And this is one thing. Like, you guys noticed, I think in July, if I remember correctly, there's also a good amount of a good amount of calls that are stacking up there. And some of you remember there's an executive order that may affect that. That's, I don't know if that's true or not, but at this point right now, it looks like some people are actually playing that. So there will be other chances too if this week doesn't run to the moon, but we're going to find out what's going to happen. Like, I mean, it has the potential right now. If you look at this options chain, this thing is absolutely stacked. I mean, I think I was looking through somebody's notes, and they were basically showing, what was it? Let's see if I can pull it up. Where did that go? Come on. They basically... Let's go. Come on. Where is it? They showed how, like... Oh, you know what? I know where it is. See if I can get in here. Yeah, so 80% right now, I guess going into tomorrow, 86% of or 84.6% of the calls were bullish, and there was only like 15% like bearish puts bought. So obviously that's a very, very big, people are very bullish on Aterian this week. So we're going to see how bullish they are, and if they're actually buying smart options or if they're just stacking up these out of the money ones, which, will be important, but it won't be as important until later in the week. Because if it doesn't matter if you have 1 million 750s and 1 million, 10s, like if you can't get above 5, then it doesn't matter. So, like, I expect this is what needs to fill up down in this range right here. Basically, all up in here, that's what needs to fill up before it gets to 5. Once it gets to 5, that will push it up to basically like here-ish. That would have to be hedged. And then at that point, it's starting to get closer to here. And so if this stuff's getting filled up too, like, that's how these things work. But yeah, there's a very, very nice gamma ramp right now that, people can take advantage of. And what happens, what has to happen is, though, like, for us to get here, this stuff needs to be filled in. So Carlos, I have followed your DD, invested my own time to research the stock. It upsets me. It upsets me to see people attack your DD and put their losses on you. I appreciate your work and dedication. Thank you, Semper. Thanks, Carlos. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, here, listen. I can't tell people. I mean, people played stuff out of the money, and they may have bought it back on the first run up, and they put it for May, and now they're bleeding out theta, and they're upset. So it's all my fault. This was a pump and dump according to them. And it's not. Like, it's just, it's a highly manipulated stock. And, like, if you look at the rest of the meme stocks, they all got nailed. Like, GameStop right now is sub 100. AMC, I think, is, 11 or something like that? Yeah, so we're not the only ones. But we actually had a green day when GME had a down day. And, I didn't look to see what happened. I know at one point BBIG was up with us about 10%, but they finished only 4% up, and then I think they lost that, though, in the after hours. I have to look into see what happened there, but I guess maybe the Tide dividend came out. I don't know. But anyway, I was going to say, but yeah, we're up 11%. So, we can definitely see, but yeah, I can't help what other people do. I always tell people to be careful. I don't recommend out of the money options. If you have no theta, you better be deep in the money. That's the way I look at it. So, it's risky when you buy a $5 call that expires this week. Like, that's just the truth of it. And I'm not recommending anyone do that, or but I'm just saying, like, if you have the ability to afford some of these things down here, that obviously is much safer, because if the stock runs back down to like 350 or 3, you still can exercise those for the shares, and you're still in the money. So if that's the way I look at it. That's why I think that's important. But obviously, that's not what makes you a ton of money. This stuff up here is what makes you a ton of money, and that's why they usually never hit. And that's also why retail usually burns premiums and gives them all back to the market makers. So, but yeah, I appreciate that, Carlos. Yeah, people are going to attack me because they're going to attack me, and I've always said, like, I wish every retail trader could make tons of money and make right decisions, but the problem is a lot of retail traders go in and they have only part of the information. They don't quite fully understand how the market works, and so they just assume when they see somebody talking about something, if it doesn't happen with price, then they must be an idiot and wrong. And that's not exactly how this works. The stock is, Aterian's very, very highly manipulated. And I can go back and show you multiple instances where the market maker has used tons of short exempts to drop the price just so they can burn out, options. There's, a million different things I could show you about Aterian that have been like really shady, and like, if I put down, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to compile a bunch of information eventually to send to the DOJ and the SEC that, we'll go look at, this. They've been spoofing for, literally like a year. All these things are illegal that they're doing, but they just never get actually caught, or at least they're not getting charged with anything at this point. So, what's up, Goat? What's up, Coupons? All right, so 12 million short cover once. Yeah, that's if they covered all at once and they didn't back anything with options, because they can at least, if they bought these like out of the money right here, at least they have a backstop to cover like shares at. So, but yeah, the stock would still go up much, much higher. So, do you think hedge funds bought or sought this stock out to short it? It seems like a viable company without the risk of bankruptcy. Laura, so what happened basically was this. there was a reason why they got shorted, and I'll go back a little bit and just give you a quick history lesson. So I entered the stock around here-ish, I think. Let's see what the date was. I think it was I think it was August. I think I bought it somewhere around here. It was like the end of August when I joined, and I didn't start writing DD until like this time frame around here. I was just kind of like in it. I was playing it. I got out. I got back in, and then I realized that what was going on was, there was a huge amount of, short interest, and, I hadn't actually researched the entire, thing. So I started looking into the high trail warrants like halfway through and realized that they were going to get diluted on because they had violated a debt covenant. So basically the trailing EBITDA was violated, and so they were going to have to give up a whole, and that's what the shorts were holding on to. So this entire time right here, they were on reg show, like this entire time. I know you can't really see, but that's this whole, like from basically here to like here, they were on reg show. And then we actually had an earnings beat here, and the stock ran up to like 8, and it just got nailed down the next day. Like, so I've been on the stock for a long time. What I'm going to tell you is this. So they really started shorting, though, this stock, and I'll zoom out one more time so I can at least show you. They didn't short the stock much when it was up here, which was interesting. What they chose to do was they started, and you can look up basically when the shipping crisis happened, they started shorting the stock around, I think, here-ish. And so the stock got pushed down, came back, and then they basically were like slumping it off. They actually beat on this earnings, and then even though they beat on this earnings, they gapped down hugely. So this was like the earnings. So they gapped down hugely the day before earnings and scared the crap out of retail, right? Look at that volume. Like retail was just like freaking out, and they just completely hammered it. And then the next day, the earnings came, and it was a beat, and they still pushed the stock down. Hit the spring level at 304, and then retail started actually entering around this point right here. But, like, these guys scared this is when they, like, doubled down, basically, was here. Then they've been tripling down, like, here, and then, like, they pushed it to an all-time low here. Right, where's 210? I think it was like here. Yeah. And then since then, we actually have had some volume again. But look how long we didn't have volume. That's a better indicator. Yeah, so we had like a little bit of volume here. And this is like 4 million. So this is not like a ton, but just showing you how long we went with absolutely no volume. Right, so this is 100 and something million, 140 something million in volume, right? Now look at all these. This is like 1 million, 1 million, 2 million, and then you finally get back over here, and you had like a little. These are like 4 million volume, and 5 million volume, like days. But like there were stretches where we had like almost no volume, and when we have no volume, look what the price does. It tanks. Because they have full control over like spoofing and pushing the stock price down. So I think they sought out the stock because it was convenient. There was a reason to do it. The shipping crisis caused a huge amount of problems for Aterian, which happened. Which happened around here-ish. This is when they got in and shorted. But now they've been like tripling. So they knew that they were going to be able to push the stock down to control it because it's such a small market cap. But eventually what we're going to see how much they really want this stock to, because, a lot of these ones, I think, what was the one that was long for, or that we thought they were long and then turned out they were one of the major shorts. Brain fart. Who was that? But anyway, whatever one that was, they basically went long recently. So a a lot of the ones that were short are now starting to go long on Aterian because I think they know it's a good time to reverse and then start closing out the short positions. So that's what I think we'll see is the start of that. They also need to shake retail out because retail's not selling at these levels, so they have to get the stock price high enough where maybe, they ran it up before to like 7, right? And now when it runs up again, they're going to be like, you saw what happened last time. If you keep holding, you're going to end up missing your chance to get out. That's essentially what they're going to do again, probably, is they're going to try to get retail to sell again when it hits like 7 because they don't want to see retail holding on. And, for some people, that'll be good enough and they'll get out. Other people will hold and say, I'm in this for the long run. And, but yeah, at this point right now, this newest balance sheet showed you that they are not at risk of delisting or even, they won't have to touch the shelf right now for a while. So, Hemaz, what's up, Anon? What's up, Hemaz? Smack the likes, smack the ask. Okay. I sent you the Bloomberg S3 on Discord. It shows a slight amount of covering happening today. Yeah, and I would imagine they probably did cover a little bit today. I think they borrowed like a 1 point something million and they returned 1 point something million, if I remember correctly. And I think, let's see if we can pull up your... Fish sent me... Hit this and this. Okay. And he's been very, very helpful because I would never have access to a Bloomberg because I'm too poor. But as you can see here, this is actually the Bloomberg information. So we get fancy information now. All right. So this is momentum. I got to zoom in and see what these are. So this is the short interest, right? This is days to cover, and this one is, I guess, the financing rate, the fees. All right, and then this one right here looks like, so they did do a slight amount of covering. I guess, can we see how much that is? Can't tell. So they did some covering here when they actually had downward price movement, probably because they were freaking retail out, so they got them to sell. But this was shorting, this was getting people to sell. So so look at this, like they were shorting here, the price is dropping, but they actually covered here while the price was going down. And so this is the part that a lot of people don't understand is if they can scare retail or institutions out of the long position, this is how they do it. So they make the price look really bad. They're shorting to keep control here. There was probably some short exempts that happened around here. And then they basically were like, okay, now we're going to get somebody to sell off. And I think there was a couple institutions that did sell around this area, and that's how they were able to start covering some here. But if you look at it overall, they still owe between 12 and 13 million shares, most likely. So that's still a lot of short interest, considering our float is not that big. So let's take a look. But yeah, slight amount of covering that happened today. That's actually not a bad thing because our price is moving up with it. So it would be worse if they covered and we didn't see any sort of price movement upwards. But it's going to, retail has to understand that you have to be patient, and that means, either that or you have to play this the right way, which means that you may not be able to just buy up 750s and hope that it hits. Like, there needs to be some thought about in the money options and, buying shares in case, I wouldn't just buy 750 options and just pray. Like, that's not a good strategy, at least in my eyes. Let's see. So yeah, so between 5 and 750 strikes are reachable this week. If we can get another green day tomorrow and close in on the fours, yeah, it's just so like people know. So when you have the bid ask, right? What all that's happening right now, because you notice the volume wasn't great today. Like we didn't have, like, it was decent, but it wasn't amazing. So what's happening is, let me see if this works. I've got a couple small accounts that I trade with just for fun. Actually, I do it for my daughter. I started her own little trading account. It's kind of cute, and she tells me which ones to buy, and she wants me to buy the green ones, the green bars. But what we do is we basically go through, and I gave her, basically her allowance money, and we go through and we invest. And so she got to buy in, I think, at like the twos and some in the threes. She doesn't have that many shares, but But what you're going to see with bid ask is you're going to see, as these things get higher up and they start all that's happening is these guys are slapping the ask instead of like the bid. So to move up the stock, these guys are just sitting there. Whatever the bid ask spread comes up, you hit the ask instead of the bid, and that's what you go through. So as the stock is starting to go up, let me go into like a minute candle so I can show you guys. All right, so let's go to like the end of the day and show you how here, right? As the stock is actually going up in price, what's happening is these guys are just this is what like institutions can do. They, instead, if you want the price to go up, you have to hit the ask price. And that doesn't give you the best price, but I mean, when you're talking about pennies, it's not that much. So like, for example, these guys were slapping the ask here at the end of the day, trying to get it up to 350. And you can tell this entire section right here, they were slapping the ask. So when they were buying, they were slapping the ask, which raises the price. This is the inverse of bid slamming or bid whacking. So, for example, when you see, let me see a down day. Okay, here. Right? So when they got up here, what they did was they sold off shares at the bid and just made sure they sold them as fast as they could. So it basically shuffles off and creates these waterfalls. And so what you see during these times when there's low volume and they're selling, they're just sliding out these shares at the bid prices, just whack every time that somebody hits the ask, they're just sliding these things out on the bid side. And so it's making the stock move down in price rapidly. So that's what bid whacking is versus slapping the ask. And so when these guys fight with each other on, like, for example, high volume days, this is what they're doing. It's basically these computers are slapping the ask, or they're bid slamming and then shorting at the same time. So in this case, we didn't have a huge amount of volume, so we went through and we go there. Now let me see if we can pull up. Let's see. See if we can move it. All right, so if we can go through here, time and sales, and we can go through and pull this up here. Okay, so somebody's writing me. Are you going to cover FTDs? Yeah, so I will cover FTDs. Sorry, I get sidetracked sometimes with my ADD. Yeah, so here we go. So what we have is everyone wants to know about Reg Show, and I think I showed you guys this the other day. Let me pull it up real quick. All right, just showing you guys. Here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times AMC went on and off. Look, there's FTDs here. They were on reg show. Boom, they get off it, right? And they go down the price. Then they hit it again here temporarily. Now, remember, you have to hit it for 5 days in a row. So they got it off it here somehow. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, they're back on it. Then they clear it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is when they go back on for a longer period of time. FTDs start mounting. They go off it again. So this can happen often. If they're finding access to shares somehow, and listen, there's a lot of ways they can do this. They're adding, for example, like Aterian, you notice the shares outstanding moved up slightly. I think it's because who's that long that just came through? Armistice Capital. They're the ones that did the private placement. So their stuff actually just hit. I think they got like 5.2 million shares so far, and they just filed them today. So that hit the 13Fs. So you were able to actually see them in this case. Yeah, I can show you. I don't want to. Here, let me screenshot it for you guys so you can see it. Where is it? But yeah, these FTDs, basically what you'll see with them is... come on. Here we go. Crop. All right. See if you guys can see this. Yeah. So these guys right here, they just hit, I think, today. Yeah. Today's the 16th, right? Yeah. So these ones hit right there, and that's 8% of the actual float is they own. So they became all of a sudden the largest institution owner of Aterian. All right, GameStop. Look at these FTDs, right? Look at all these FTDs. Huge amount of FTDs. No reg show. That's a huge amount. And no reg show somehow. I don't know how that even worked. But then they were, they hit FTDs right here. I think this is when Ryan Cohen joined the board. And then they hit reg show again 2 times there. And then once more right before like December. And then this was, I think, January. Like December into January, this reg show. But that was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times before they squeezed. So they went on and off. So don't worry about the FTDs. Don't worry about the reg show. I'm just showing you that you can do that as well. Like FTDs can go on and off multiple times before it actually squeezes up. So what's up, Anon? Just popping to say hi. My wife gets angry when I watch, so I have to stream tomorrow at work. All right, no problem. But what if the market makers just don't hedge? Well, I mean, that's happened before. I mean, and that's the truth of it is market makers don't have to hedge if they don't think retail will actually execute their calls. So there's that. Okay, over 5, this blows up. Yep, that is true. But 5 is a challenge. Yeah, and they're going to try to basically, if they can, keep it out of that range. Don't forget gamma will bring short covering. That is true. They might get squeezed out at some point because the more rapidly the stock moves up, you basically lose leverage on your your shorts. No, I bought $2 worth of Luna coins to laugh at. I don't care if I lose it. Okay, that's good stuff then. All right, what's the final calculation after the 13 Fs were accounted for? I am still working through that. I have Fish nicely did the Bloomberg information, but I have not had time to go through it. I was putting my kids to bed, so my daughter. I actually have my son tonight, and usually my son goes down no problem, but he, for whatever reason tonight, was having trouble getting down, so that's why I was slightly late. And then my daughter wanted a kiss goodnight too, so I gave her one. But yeah, it's funny. I've been trying to teach them. Like my son's too young, but like my daughter, I go through and I teach her about stocks, and her mom got mad at me. My wife got mad at me because there was that catchy "Buying the Dip" song, and I used to play it, and my daughter would like dance around with me and would sing "Buying the Dip, Buying the Dip," and my wife was like, "Dear God, like why is our daughter talking about buying the dip?" So I had a talking to, she talked to me and she was like, not exactly appropriate for a 3-year-old to be knowing all this, but I think it's an important thing that she should learn. So I mean, we have fun with it. We like green candles. We don't like red candles. We open up her account and take a look at it. She owns obviously Aterian. She wanted to buy, what was it? I have to look in her account. Let's see. She wanted to buy Under Armour, which I didn't really want to buy, but she wanted to because she has a bunch of Under Armour shirts that are her comfy shirts, as she calls them. And so she was like, I want to buy this one. I'm like, okay, fine. And so we did. And she also owns, I think, like a recharging station. She just liked the symbol. But anyway, yeah, I think if you guys have kids, or if you someday planning on having them, it's important to teach them how all this stuff works at an early age, because the better grasp they have on it by the time they're adults, then, like, I'll be honest, like, my dad was not great with money. He's since passed, but he was not great with money. He actually made a good living. He was a chemical engineer, but he didn't know what to do finance-wise. Like, and so my mom actually had a better sense because her father was very heavily involved in the stock market, but she always just hired somebody to do it for her. So she didn't pass a ton of information to us. My grandfather taught me a lot when I was young, but I also was an idiot and didn't listen to him as much as I should have. It wasn't like I was taking notes and being like, oh, this is good information. No, I was like, oh my God. Like, he would give us, instead of like toys, he would give us like shares of Exxon Mobil. And at the time, he was the grandfather who didn't, give us toys. But, later on in life, I realized how important that was because, even those couple $100 back in the 80s, when I was, receiving them, by the time I was, 18 years old, those were like worth thousands of dollars. And I was, because compound interest, and we did dividend reinvestment. And so, I learned a lot from him, but probably should have learned more. But I had to go back, and I told people I started with Stocks for Dummies, and I kind of, would read all these, kind of just personal finance books in the beginning. And then I got interested in stocks after doing an accounting class with, what was it? I did accounting, and I was taking too many classes, so I had dropped it. And then I went back and I talked to this professor who was a former Army guy that was now a CPA. And I was like, listen, I don't really get this stuff. I don't understand why, at the time I was working for a small business. I'm like, I don't really understand why I need to know all this stuff about stocks. And he's like, it's actually really fun. You should try it. And he kind of got me into it. And he was like, I'll make sure you pass. Because, he was a good guy. And I had, I was a Marine. He was in the Army, and we both had been deployed. And I was on the GI Bill, and he was like, I'll make sure you pass so you don't waste the class and take it for no credit. So, but that's when I really kind of think got, started clicking, and I really liked it. So, yeah, 7 is chimp change. 300 shares. I'm in at 380. Good job, Jerry. Yeah, you should have thought. Wait, yeah, should have thought it was going to dump more. I mean, it could have. It still can. It just at this point right now, it looks like it's starting to really start rising up. And if we see the MACD crossover bullish, then we'll really know some stuff is going on. So if we hold over $5 on Friday, the shorts are screwed. Well, I mean, they'll owe at least probably like 3 to 4 million shares. So that I would imagine that would be not great for them going into the next week. But so churn creates volume, creates FTDs, which creates pressure, which creates moon. In some ways, yeah. And thank you. How can we make a one-time payment to you through Patreon? I don't really know how that works. I'm Patreon member number 4. I appreciate it, Hustle. I don't really know. I don't know how that works. I probably should look into that. I just like I said, this was all just if I was going to ever become a full-time streamer, that's why I set up the Patreon. It wasn't really to I'm just reading the next one. Sorry. Yeah, but I'll try to figure out a way of making that work. Rob Wise. I know you're not offering a financial advice, but if I sell 22K shares and turn around and buy 220 contracts for Friday, so that's not quite how it works, Rob. If you're selling shares, that allows them to basically reset FTDs. It also allows them... you're creating buying or selling pressure that will actually hit the lit exchange. Plus, it wouldn't cost you 22, what's the math on that? 22K shares. Let me pull it up real quick. Times what's our stock price right now is like what, 348 roughly. So you got like probably roughly like 70 grand in there. Yeah, to buy 20 or 220 contracts in the money. I don't think it would cost that much. So, but you also, if you don't, for example, if it goes into expiry and you don't have the money for those contracts, then it doesn't matter, because if you didn't make them hedge because they don't believe you actually can afford to exercise those contracts, then they won't actually hedge them. So I don't think that's the way to go personally, but that's not financial advice. I don't think, if you don't have that money just laying around, then I wouldn't personally sell my shares to do that. You're also creating something that has a theta element when you already have shares long. So, all right. So Jerry says, I know you can't predict the future, but what's your reasoning about a reasonable price point if the chips fall in place? I mean, if you're exiting, you probably want to do it in stages. You don't want to ever sell everything all at once. And I believe that's the same thing as for buying. It's not financial advice, but I'm just saying. So if you bought your entire position here, right, on this candle, you threw all your money in, right? That's great for here, right? You did well. But if you were going down and you were like, okay, it's going to reverse right here, and you put in all your money here, and then we get all the way down here and touch that like 260 or 250 that we hit. Well, you missed out on a huge amount of buying that was lower. So that's why you don't ever go in all at once on a stock. You go down in like percentages. You might buy 10% of your position here, 10% of your position here, maybe 20% here, maybe the remainder here. And you still should have ammo left that if it goes even lower, that you could buy more. You don't ever want to throw everything in all at once, even if it looks exciting for that day. because, if you did it, for example, on this day, because it ran up and you're like, okay, this is going to moon again, and then it just slumped the rest of the time, and you went all in at like 542, you've missed out on buying down here at the twos. Like, so that's why you don't want to do that. Same thing goes for selling. Like, if you want to start taking profits at certain levels, then that's what you would do, is you would take profits in small, in different percentages, whatever you feel comfortable with. That's a better way of selling than, or buying in general. So just throwing it out there. If you have some price targets in mind, I would recommend doing it like when you buy, you want to buy on areas of support, like strong support. And then if they, fall below, then you buy the next level of support. And then if you're selling, same things. You would sell in areas of resistance. So that's just general, like, market stuff. It's not financial advice. Yeah, Lever Up's question about. But yeah, I wouldn't do that personally. Freight rates are looking like they're about to fall off a cliff. Well, that'd be good then. No problem. And I can have my wife at the squeezes hand. No, thank you. I don't think my wife would like that. Let's see. Do you think they shorted the stock to do an offering? Do you think they shorted the stock and get them to do an offering? No, because we ran up all the way up to 7 and they didn't do an offering. So I don't think the offering is on their mind right now. I also, think they don't like shorts very much, and so if this stock can move up, at some point they will probably do an offering. I mean, I just want to throw that out there because these guys, they have 44 million in cash as of the last balance sheet. My guess would be after a couple of months, we'll see what that number is. I think as of, what was it, the 31st of March, was that when the cutoff was, whatever it was. They probably have in the 30s now, for 30-something million, maybe like 38, 37 million, roughly, for cash, if I remember their cash burn correctly. So they don't have infinite cash right now. So they're going to need cash at some point. All right. Do you think they shorted? Yeah. So at this point right now, I don't think they're going to do an offering yet. At some point, though, if the stock runs up to like 10 or 12 or 15, like, my guess would be they would let them hit maybe the warrants at 15. If they blew through those, then you'd be looking at 25 would be the next set of warrants. If it kept going after that, I could imagine them doing an offering, anything above 25 if it was still running. But at that point, if we move from $3 to 25, you're just them doing an offering up at those levels. They would probably raise enough cash that they might actually increase how much their book value is and their, like, underlying, to the point where they might be a $12 to $15 stock just anyway, just off that, the raising the cash. So. My censored comment. Can you share why Girk doesn't like ATER? I saw him cheering when it dropped to 3 last week, but I haven't been paying attention. So I think, like, I've talked to Girk before. We had a conversation. He thought that the stock didn't have enough momentum. And he's a GME purist, and I guess the best way to describe it is, when I talked to him, and I won't, like, pull over a conversation on DM, but he thought that all the fundamental, or all the setup in the world, it doesn't matter if you don't have any volume. And so obviously we had volume in this section right here. The stock moved because it's got great, underlying, things for a squeeze. But then the volume died down when the market started tanking. And so since we have had that, it's probably in his mind where he was like, he told his people, oh, well, this thing wasn't going to run anyway. But then if it turns around and runs again, then, obviously he's wrong, and, that's fine. Like I said, it's not for everyone. He's been long on GameStop for a very, very long time. And I'm also long on GameStop. And so, I hope we both get MOAS on it. But In this case, I also have other things that I buy, and one of them was Aterian, and I've been researching and doing all the he's covering mainly GME, and he'll pick out a couple random tickers to swing, but he's not going long like I am on Aterian. So that's probably why, in my opinion, is he's not really looking. He's also probably not doing the amount of research that I have on this stock. So he kind of glances at the chart, looks at it from a TA perspective. He might read a DD here and there, but he's probably not doing a lot of due diligence on it like he is on GameStop, because he's got his plate full. He already streams for people. That's something I don't do. So that would be my guess why he doesn't like Aterian, is probably because he hasn't done a ton of DD on it himself. And if, in this case, he, probably thinks GameStop is the better play. So, but yeah, a lot of times if somebody says, oh, well, this thing's going to go down, and then it does, they feel correct. And so that's some confirmation bias for themselves. If this stock runs back up to 5, is he going to be cheering it? No, probably be like, well, this stock's not going to do anything. That would be my guess. All right. It's a Aterian feed. We don't care about Luna. Okay. Do you believe the incoming recession would cause ATER to squeeze via margin call similar to VW? So VW is actually not. That's not exactly how VW happened, Mason. Just so you guys know, what happened with VW was something very, very interesting, which was Porsche, if I remember correctly. Porsche was the stock that actually, the company that actually started gaining control of VW. VW was being shorted very, very heavily. And Porsche came through and did something that most people didn't see coming, which was they basically acted like a hedge fund, and they started scooping up all these shares of Volkswagen. Now, what they knew and what most people overlooked was they knew that the shares that were outstanding that were issued to, because I guess Volkswagen's somewhat, it's got some weird like clause that they're like quasi-government, because they were, that's like a huge company in, where are they made? Like Sweden or something? Where's Volkswagen made? Is it Germany? Okay. Yeah, Germany. But so Volkswagen, though, was being acquired by Porsche in these chunks, and so what ends up happening is they had some like government deal where they're like a quasi like government, and those shares couldn't be touched. And so what Porsche did was Porsche actually went through and they locked up the entire like every share, like more shares than existed, because they knew that these other ones could never be sold. And so they essentially squeezed out the shorts, and it was just ongoing. And eventually they had to like sit down at a like negotiating table, because like the shorts were so screwed. Like the stock became the most like highest market cap stock in the world, like overnight. And so eventually the Porsche went to them, or they went to Porsche and said, listen, please don't squeeze us forever. We're willing to just settle at these, a locked in rate. And Porsche took all that money and ran. But it was super interesting. But yeah, that's not quite what happened with Volkswagen. So Volkswagen was basically Porsche squeezing shorts on VW, and it was kind of genius what they did. Shannon says, you mentioned being in it for the long run, but yeah, I mean, like, for example, I have options that I'll probably sell at certain points. I've got like some 5s that are for, May. So those would be the ones I probably, because they have the shortest amount of theta. Some of my other ones are longer dated, so. But yeah, I would probably sell some of those first. I like my shares. I kind of want to keep most of them. Most of them are actually DRS. So if you guys remember me talking about that, I DRS my shares, I don't know, back in October, maybe October, November of last year. So most of my shares are actually not in my TD account or in my, what's it called? I have multiple different accounts, like Webull, and I have some other accounts too. But basically, the majority of my shares are already locked up, and I don't have access to them, so I can't sell them. But I did play a lot of calls on these things because of that. All right. Yeah, Armis. Everyone's got that. I'm a little behind, but yeah. Everyone slapped the ass today. Yeah, but I mean, that's the truth, is if you actually slap the ask on the stock price will move up as long as you're doing it on a lit exchange. Lit exchange means doing it through like IEX or anything that's an actual lit exchange. Brian's got 11K plus. I included the calculations in there. Fish, I'm not sure. Wait, did you send me an updated one? I'm not sure what that was in reference to. The calculations. Oh, and maybe it's in the email. Maybe that's what you were saying. Let me see. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's right. You have a spreadsheet. Yeah, I was going to say fish. The only thing I'm noticing, though, is didn't somebody come in? I don't see. I think, what's it called? MacArthur? I think MacArthur actually counts as an insider, and I don't see their shares in there. So I think that's the only one that's missing out of the Bloomberg information, because they would actually have to register theirs as an insider, if I remember correctly. All right. Can we spoof our shares? Everyone just takes 500 of their shares, puts a limit of like 15 cents over the bid, and then pull out right before the orders. I think it's illegal on all sides, but yeah. My guess is if you do that, it will just execute, and you don't have a high frequency. If you try to do that manual, you're probably just going to buy the shares way higher than. My kid's 5, and he's been watching me since the last June AMC run up. Hey, good. That's awesome. I'm way behind in the stream right now, but I want to say thanks for your time. Thanks. Appreciate that, Shameful. Sprinkle Humble here from Reddit. No idea how I got that profile name. Love your videos and analysis. Thanks, Ben. And focus on the fundamentals of where we're going and the probabilities. Glad to be on this journey with you. Respecting your reading and answering every comment. When this thing blows up, you can't address every comment. It'll be a bittersweet day. I'll still try. I'll just be on here for a long time. But at that point, we'll see. I mean, if this thing ran to like 20-something, I mean, we'd probably be doing pretty good. But we'll see. Ben Vaca said he's got about 150K shares and about $402 calls and about $203 calls expiration this week. Ooh, good for you, Ben. Hopefully you'll get paid this week. How are the in-the-money calls looking? They're still a little bit light, but that's okay. We'll see how the stock price moves tomorrow. But, Steven, just able to get on. Did I miss anything important? I don't think anything I'd say is important, so no. Ben, you got to exercise those calls? Absolutely. Hopefully their $3 are in the money by the end of the week. Yeah, I hope that's true. Okay, into a closet basically, and ATER can't access money. Who are the buyers of the 2250 calls for this Friday and why? So James, most likely those are people who are playing IV spikes. So what you will find is when you own very, very deep out of the money options, when the IV spikes on them, they will go up in value, and then some people will, sell those for this quick flip. You have to do it very quickly. If it's, if it's not if the stock's not completely running during that time, what you'll find is they'll go up very, very quickly, and they'll also go down very, very quickly. So if you hit it like a down patch, they'll lose value just as fast as they gained it. So, but yeah, they're probably just playing IV spikes, James, on those 2250 calls. They don't actually think it's going to go that high. They're just looking for somebody to come in and buy it, and then they'll flip it for profit. Do you believe that GMA, I'm guessing you meant GME, and AMC will achieve their all-time high again? Mason, I think GameStop will do something different, and I don't know about AMC. I don't know if AMC will get that high again. It would all just, if it unravels and people get margin called, then yeah, it can definitely go that high again. If what I think might happen, which is they just allow these companies to basically, and I've told people this, and it's not a popular opinion, but we'll see. I had a thought that with GameStop, what they're going to allow them to do is basically become a real, actual functioning, company, kind of like they did Tesla. There was a ton of short interest, and they just, every time they did it, they would close in waves and go up and raise more cash, and like eventually they were just a real company that was producing things, and every time the shorts closed, they just issued more at the money offerings, and they would raise cash and then fund more of their business. That's kind of what I see these companies doing. And so they won't ever actually squeeze, but they'll just become like very valuable, long-term companies. That's kind of what I think the SEC and that, once again, that's not a popular opinion, but, if all of a sudden the stock's worth $200 or $300, 3 or 4 years from now, and you bought in at 17, that's still a pretty good play. Yeah. Did it get to millions? No. But they also are going to try to protect their system. But yeah, if you look at, here's GameStop. GameStop's oversold. Crossed over right here. Oversold. Now we've moved up slightly, but it's still very much down. All right. Let's see. Or people playing volatility. Yep. Yeah, it's people playing IV spikes probably, or they're just unrealistic. Those are the two options. Jake is right. Volkswagen's Germany. Yep. My daughter has 25% of her savings in Aterian. Yeah. I think hers is like 50 for my daughter. Are you in any plays with selling ATER puts? Wait, are you in any plays with selling ATER puts? So I right now don't have any Aterian. Like, you can sell puts which are bullish. At this point right now, I was looking at them, and I had bought too many shares and I ran out of cash. And so hopefully I'll get paid very soon, because I'm supposed to close my house tomorrow. No, 2 days from now. So if I close my house and that money hits, then I will be replenished for some cash. But at this point right now, I was going to sell some covered calls, and I realized that I spent all my money this morning down at like, when the stock was I think, was it 313? I bought some at roughly something like that. So I felt pretty good buying it down there. All right. Can we please talk about Aterian? I'm so screwed if ATER doesn't squeeze this week. So that sounds like you have been playing some out of the money options, or you've bought them a while ago and now the theta on them is killing you. You just always have to remember theta is the killer of options. Just for reference, I sold some AMC $25 calls. So I sold covered calls on AMC that I own the shares of. And, I made like a good chunk of change on them. And I don't think AMC is going to hit it this week. I just don't think it's going to run up to 25. And so I got some extra cash from it. And, you can do that with your shares. You can make your shares work for you. I know some people don't want to hear that about, but like with my AMC ones, I'm just trying to get something out of them because I bought in pretty low on them. And so at this point, I'm just waiting. So might as well make a little bit of money off of them while I sit here and wait. But yeah, if you're sitting there and you're very much worried if the Aterian doesn't squeeze this week, then my guess is the position's either too big that you made a bet on, and either that or they're out of the money or the theta's just killing you. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I've been in that boat before many times over the years. It's not a good feeling. It's the problem with the options. So if you have commons, then you have nothing to worry about. But if you have options, which it sounds like you do, then I'm hoping we get a squeeze too. But this is GameStop, not Aterian. So yeah. I mean, we had a good day. We were up 11%, so we were trying. You can go back and watch the points. Are we getting porn bots again? I haven't seen them. Do you think a $5.93 average is too high at this point? I'm running out of cash to buy more, unfortunately. No, I mean, so obviously the lower you can get the price, these shares, it will help you average down. But I think, that's not a bad average. Considering where a lot of us started, I bought my first couple shares, on the previous run up, not this one, but the one back in last year. But most of them, I think I started buying them at 10. Like, I actually had waited till they hit here. I bought some down here in like the 4 and 5s, and it ran up to here, and I actually sold some shares back at like 12, I think, and then sold another set of shares at like 18 or 16, something like that. And then I re-entered actually back when it fell below 10 because I thought it was going to have another run up. And so I thought it was going to become like a Wyckoff thing where they were going to be like up here just chopping around, but they just slung back up. And then I think I sold a couple shares when it hit like 15. And then, I had some shares long that I had bought, but I was able to start actually really, averaging down in this area, which was like the 5s. And then once we get to book value, that's when I was like, okay, I went harder in. And then, we got down to, below, like, we got down to current asset values, and we were still going down. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense fundamentally. Like, I'm just going to buy more. So I loaded up really when it got really low. Other people were like, well, I don't know if I can buy anymore. I'm like, the stock, just keeps going down. I'm like, the lower the stock goes, the more I'm going to get and the better I'm going to feel, because I'll be able to at least be profitable much, much sooner. That makes holding a lot easier than if you're sitting there with like a $12 average and then you have to just sit there and hope that it gets back up there. Yeah, exactly. There were some toots that were in at 15. Some of them have like $18, $20 averages, so our option's still looking good for the 20th. I mean, depends on which ones you got. If you got $1 options, then yeah, you're fine. If you've got 750s, then you obviously have more risk on the table. So, I mean, here's the options for you if you want to take a look. Like, I don't recommend out of the money options. So this is where we're at right now, slightly below 350. That's something we can obviously challenge tomorrow and see if we break through. At that point right now, you would need to see a bunch more fours and 450s being bought up to kind of keep that momentum going. And then you still need to make sure that these 3s, 250s, and 2s are still getting bought up too, to make sure that they're being honest, so they're not just sliding this down like they do normally. So, yeah, I started with a $17 average, got it down to $5.93. Just been worried about how high it'll run. It's just hard waiting this long, not knowing. Yeah, I totally get it, Nitro. I mean, when ATER hits all-time high, I'm going to buy me one of those fancy home Scotch barrels. I don't think they're really that expensive, to be honest with you. Let's see. Scotch barrel. Yeah, it's like maybe $100, $200. Yeah. I don't think there's anything with this here. This is kind of what it looks like. So, and they got it. His wedding was like engraved on the front. So they're not that much. They're like $109. Hopefully you can afford that. Yeah, but I mean, like I said, we'll see. And then let's see, fish just ATER sell. No, unfortunately, Aterian does not sell them. We should get them into it though. We'd all buy them from them. I do need to talk to investor relations at some point. I'm getting tired again. All right. Let's see. I can't buy one. I'm buying shares. There you go. But afterwards, yeah, you'll go ahead and, do that. All right. Thanks so much for what you do for us, and we owe you so much. No, I was going to say, appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and we'll go over this stuff, and, my math indicates that Max Payne drops to 350 tomorrow. Interested to see what the share price direction happens for the rest of the week. Gamma seems interesting as well. Yeah, that's why I was trying to explain that, like, honestly, if the more that this stuff gets stacked up here, the lower this goes for Max Payne. Like, we were at 450, I think, or $5 the last week. Then it was 450. This will probably drive us down to 350 for Max Payne, because there's not a ton on the put side. So they're going to try to keep the stock price down here. And so that means if there's not a ton of like this stuff to make these guys honest, then, but I'm, like I said, I can't make people buy these options. I mean, like, people invest how they want to, but like for me, like, the smartest things that they could do is, make sure to keep these guys honest. And if you're able to afford that, then that's what I'm going to look at doing, is making sure that I have enough deep in the money options that if they slid this down, because what their target is, they're going to try to finish right here. because that's where basically the open interest falls off a cliff. So, I mean, if I was a market maker, I would be trying to pin it right here. That's where I'd be shooting for Friday. Who knows? Hey, Anna, did you talk about institutional ownership today and how it may have increased to 31%? I'm still going through the numbers, guys. I didn't have time to finish up. I mean, I can show you this right here. This is Fintel. So Fintel is reporting based off of the 13Ds, Gs, and Fs that institutional ownership is now 20 million shares, which is 31% of the float. So, I mean, if that's true, we should see. Where is it? Come on, where is it? I'm going to open it over here. Okay. All right, let's see. Yeah, so I'm going off of the numbers that I saw from, I thought they changed it now. I saw that it looked like Armis, whatever, Capital, whatever, they were going into, and it looked like they may have gotten some more shares out of the like the warrants and the commons that they were basically getting from the private placement. So I think that's now the new number. We'll see tomorrow if any of the places update it, but it's between 63 and 64 million for our shares outstanding, which means that our float right now, I think it also depends. I've got to go through and look at insider ownership because I think that some of them went down, but then again, I think that one thing that was missing on the Bloomberg that I noticed was that it was 98-30 MacArthur. Those guys, I think they still have a good amount of shares inside of some sort of trust, and I think they still count as an insider. But I need to confirm that against there because they used to count as an insider, so I need to find out if they still do because they sold a certain amount of portion of their shares at one point, but then they transferred them over to a different trust. So it's a little bit confusing, so we need to do that. You ever get access to that Bloomberg terminal? Fish actually has been really nice and helped me out with that, and he's been able to post some great stuff. Like we covered, for example, like this. I know you can't probably see that, but this is the momentum. This was the covering. So we saw a little bit of covering today. This one was the short interest right here. This one was, and the reason why I think this went down is because the float changed. So we'll see what that looks like. Then this one was the days to cover, and this one was the financing rates. Yeah, so you're able to, if you want to, go to the Patreon, and obviously that's what we were, the end goal is to be that if you guys want me to stream, then I would be able to do it every day and not have to, have days where I can't write DD and, can't stream and talk about things. Because what happens is when I work in the field, like luckily today was raining, so I was not in the field, but like I might have to be out in the field tomorrow. And if I am, then I don't have access. I'm not sitting behind a computer all day. So, do you ever, but yeah, so let's see. And then it's been almost 3 weeks. No response to my complaint about SEC or naked shorting. Yeah. Get used to that. But just stay on them, Brian. the SEC, if you just keep writing, complaining, eventually they do get back to you. I did hear finally from them. I think they took a month and a half, if I remember correctly, but, I just keep leaving messages and keep writing complaints. So, someone said approximately 18 million. That sounds about right. Like, I saw 20, I've seen 19, I've seen 18. Do you think the float is sold 3 times or more, thinking of rehypothecation alone? Yeah, and I mean, it would make sense, at least to the layman. I showed you guys before this thing where you have this... excuse me. You have this divergence here, where this is your ADL, which follows price alone but no volume. Your OBV follows price and volume together, and your money flow just follows like the money flowing in and out of stocks. But you see how these two are basically raised and elevated this entire time, and then right here on our new run-up, they got pinned up here at the very top of the indicator. But if you look at the price action, the price is just bleeding off, bleeding off, bleeding off, bleeding off. Slight move up, and then now it's been bleeding off again, right? You go to, like, Ford. Look at Ford. Same indicator. Money's flowed out, right? It was, like, kind of here, flowing in, flows out here. We see that drop to the all-time low, or the recent low, and then look at this. It's been chopping around. Money's starting to slowly flow back in, flow back in, flow back in. You get to this peak up here at the high, right? 25. It's up here where we are, right? And then it goes down as it's been bleeding off. That's how money flow is supposed to work. Same thing, it works for Amazon. You can see the money flowing into the stock, maxing out right here, right? These are the 2 peaks right here. But you see they're pinned up here, and now as the money's starting to flow out, you will actually see money moving out of the stock. Now go back to Aterian. Look at this. The money flows in, goes up here, and then money flows in even more up here. But look, it's not dropping. Like, in fact, it's curling back up on the OBV. But yet the price doesn't follow that. That works for like all these like shorted stocks. Look at like GME, same thing. Look, money flows in up here, flows up here even more, gets pinned up here, and it just stays up here. It's the same as Aterian. Look at AMC. Same concept. Money comes in, goes up. Now they do swing more because they have, no offense, some people that don't know that how all this stuff works as well. So they've people that tend to go in and out of AMC at times. But, look at any of these like short interest stocks. You'll see the money flowing into them, and then you don't see it leave. Pick, normal stocks. Even like BBAI, that's a more recent one. But like, the money was like pinned down here. It wasn't moving much. And then you saw this downward thing. It started sloping down, and then the money started coming in right here to this most recent run. These are how these like meme stocks kind of operate. They all look like this. Anything that retail likes. Let's look at Wayfair. Wayfair goes up, 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 right? Stays up here, and now money's flowing out of it right now. And look, money's flowing out of it. Like, that's how these things are supposed to operate. So, but yeah, like that would indicate to me when you look at something like Aterian. So if we, for example, locked up most of the float back here, or like at least by here, because this is when we hit right here on March 8th, we had 100% utilization. We've been 100% utilization since this date right here. Right here. March 8th. So this entire time frame right here, I think it's like 60 or 70 days, has all been straight up, on regs, or not, but 100% utilization. So, it could very well have been, rehypothecation. That's, they keep lending out the same shares over and over again to different people. And all right, I thought someone at Citadel picked up 5.2 million recently. I don't think they're that high, if I remember correctly. All right, you need to look at Ford. It's just easy to point out when money's flowing in and when money's flowing out. What program are you using right now? It's just Thinkorswim. It's a free program. You can download it from TD Ameritrade, and these are all the indicators that I typically look at just on a normal basis, and then eventually, sometimes I add and subtract things when I want to look at them. So, but yeah, just Thinkorswim. That's all it is. And then, sometimes I'll compare it against, Webull. Oh, all right. I'm getting tired. Probably should go to bed. Anyone else have any more questions? Where do you see the stock going tomorrow? Well, hopefully up. I know you guys are probably writing that out right now. Are my calls secure? I don't know. Oh, Nifty, thank you so much. Yeah, he did it for us. So Nifty's just pointing out right now in the comments that we do have a Discord that if you are not part of it, you should definitely come and join us. It's free. Always has been. And, people go in there. There's a Aterian channel if you want to talk about the stock. I'm not typically on during the day on YouTube when I do the silent streams. So if you want to chat with other people holding Aterian, that's a good place to do it. Frodo asks, are you thinking that liquidity drying up and the interest rates are going to help the squeeze? We'll see what ends up happening with that. But yeah, that could be it. We wouldn't be the ones that would cause, Aterian's too small. They're not going to be the ones that cause a gamma, or not. Sorry, we would be a byproduct of them losing control of like AMC or GameStop, something that they're very short on, and they have been for months. So, I don't think, for example, Aterian's going to be the one that sets that catalyst in motion. But if that happens, then Aterian would very much benefit from whoever it is that's shorting this. We've got obviously some names, but in the long run, what I'm saying is we would benefit from anything like that. Do you think we could run up over 30? We'd slow down because the $25 warrants, there's about 5 million of them. But, if there was still momentum, this all is predicated on what happens with retail, because retail owns most of the stock. We now have seen institutions are starting to buy in long, but, this stock still is going to run and die on what happens with retail. So, a warrant to purchase 3,013 shares and 850 shares, or the exercise price of. So that's not how they work. Every single warrant, Kendrick, will read that way about the exercise price of 0.00001. They have to put something down, so they always put that number down. If you go to any filing, doesn't matter if it's Google, Amazon, they all express it in those terms, but they actually have strike prices that they're preset. So yeah, I was going to say, if you're reading through the filing, that's not the exercise price. They always just put that in as like a placeholder, and you can compare that against any single one of the filings whenever you see it. But I believe they already got most of their shares out of the pipe warrants and the Because if you look at the pipe warrants, if I remember correctly, it specifically says on the language there that they can't be exercised until September 6th of this year. So you can't get those right now. You can though. Sorry, you can. Sorry, I'll be going to bed after this. But you can. What was I talking about? So tired I am now. I'm not making sense anymore. I woke up at like 5 something. All right. But, all right. Tell me what I was talking about because I completely forgot. Let me scroll back up. What was the question? Oh, it was about the warrants. Yeah. So I think they got most of their shares out now. That's what it looks like. And the pipe warrants will be locked up until September 6th. So hopefully that answered that. Like the video if you can, for anyone that's still in here that hasn't liked it. I appreciate it. And yeah, if you actually got Nifty did a good job and posted that thing. So we'll do it one more time. Good hanging out with you guys. Hopefully we'll see everybody tomorrow, and we'll hopefully go even higher, and we'll be in the 4s when we talk tomorrow. But if not, if we're still chopping around here, we still have plenty of time, hopefully, for the rest of the week. But yeah, everyone have a great evening. I'm going to dive more into the float tomorrow because obviously there was a lot going on today, but I will try to get into that now that I have the information from Bloomberg as well. All right. So you guys have a wonderful evening. I'll get some sleep and see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much. I need like a catchphrase to sign off. You guys think of a good catchphrase. I'll say it. All right. Good night, guys.